on Tough Fresh Hay, and we're working on this period which is called Saleg Bedargui Laelo Laelo. Laelo Laelo. So it goes up and up by levels. So he says, we're on number Zion on page Tough Fresh Hay. That's where we're at, I believe. So he says, Beferish Talmud, Bir Khan, what is he talking about that's going up and up through levels? He says, Khan Lefidarko, he said, Lael, he said, that the Hidach Ba'ayra Beleda Bishonda to their onbit. So here we have the concept of two different ladas, of course. First, he was talking about that. But now it's talking about, excuse me, a second gestation. Iver Sheni de Zer Amtin that refers to Zer Amtin Ein Sham. But the Zer Bebir Indian Hasiluk HaOmor Khan. So now over there explains the siluk that we're talking about. What does he mean by siluk, that it leaves? He said, Histalkus Zer Anpin B'mei Bina. He says this refers to the leaving of Zer Anpin from the womb of Ima, the Tzorach Mochin, the godless, for the purpose of bringing in to him Mochin, the godless. Now, did I get that right? And he says, Siluk. Siluk means leaving. So he's talking about Zer Anpin B'mei Ima, that is his leaving Ima L'Tzorach Mochin, the god of his other Shana B'duluk. Let's explain. He says, Tzorach Beis Ivurim. You have to have two Ivurim. Biva Arishon Gimel Kolida Begimel. Okay, so this is the first gestation of continence. And then you're going to have Mochin the godless is going to come up. So the Iver Pam base, which means that is gestated a second time. Now I don't see the gestation. I mean, the way that I understand the seed is placed from Abba into Ima, and there you have a gestation there for Zeranpin. But here you have what is it that's causing this gestation to happen the second time? Which could only be, say, Maya Nukvin, like that. So he says then, when the second gestation, he said this causes, and we're working this word Yisyached to mean isolated, Yud Bilchudui, the Yud by itself. So that's where the Yud is by itself. It means that's in the first birth. But then it has to leave from that position. L'masham is chashka nukva. Then you have this also concept, which we're about to get to, is that the nukva becomes darkened, or everything becomes black for her. But lo yesh la l'nukva zivug. She is no longer connected to Zer Anpin. Lefisha Zer Anpin mistalik b'mei bina, because Zer Anpin left the womb of Ima. So this is not easy for me to piece together what he meant, what he's saying here. But let's just look at this. He wants to say that the subject that we're talking about must be taking place in the womb of Ima, and in the womb of Ima. So let's see what could be going on there. He said it's on the lumberkey. Lo yesh lo lenukva. He's talking about Malchus there. Zivuk. She's no longer in the yichud with Zeranpin. Lefi Shazer Anpin Mistalid B'mei because he leaves by himself. That's what it sounds like. V'zecha v'rak Zaman Moed, but that's only for a moment. Kizecha be'edach elu kadei sheyavo Zer Anpin besod hagadlos, and this is only for the purpose of Zer Anpin. What's his word? Sheyavo, Zer Anpin, should he come to the level of godless, Ad Khan. Now, to me, offhand, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I really don't understand it that well. So let's see if there's information there we could use. We understand there's two gestations, but here the question of that he has to be born out, or Mochin had to be born out for him a separate way. So therefore, he loses, when that is happening, he loses the connection with the nukva. I don't know how that works. Number Ches and Tess, he says he has two here. Hadras Melech is and Kan Rei Lael. So look up Babir Zohar. So that's just a site reference over there for where we could pick up more information. Going on, he said, now we're going to Ischasha the Nukva. So in some way, what we got out of, we did miss some water under the bridge because some time passed. But we have somehow they're talking about two gestations, and they're talking about how the zeranpin, or the male aspect, whatever that would be, leaves by itself. It goes by itself. Here we have this causes a darkness to come onto the nukva. Bebir Indians chashka nukva. Ray Bebir Bashul the Harizal, Shin is Boyral Pian Shara Pesukim, he said Sharkatomos, he said the Acher HaNesira, that after the Nesira takes place, Chozrim Nai the Ima, Histalek Mehanukva. Okay, so it's left, it leaves the Nukva, now we understand that. And this causes the Nukva to go back down to be a dot again. So now we're bringing this over there in that name. He said that the miut Nukva ad Nakuda, now what we were learning this morning, where it was talking about Hismatus of the Nukva, this seems to be this, I'm not, well, that's what happens at midnight, but this is right after the Nesira. The Nesira builds her all the way up until she's like an adult, but then she's independent and shrinks back down to a dot again. Ray Od Ba'arasham, so there's a lot of Aras over there, he says. Over there, there's more to be seen about that. What it is, I'm not 100% sure, so let's go on. Now the Grua is going to get into the game, but she becomes darkened, Mishum Siluk Mochin the Abba, because the Mochin of Abba leave her. Now again, who's the Nukva? So where does it go back? It goes back to their root. He says, Ki Iker Binyan Nukva Hum Mekoyach Aras Abba. So if you really want to know, this is something that I saw before, and I really don't understand 100%. Okay, we had this little interruption here again in our shir, and here he comes back again. Okay, so trying to figure out what there's a lot missing here, so try to figure out what he's talking about. Siluch mochin the Abba the Shorsham. So the mochin the Abba, which managed to make their way, I guess he's talking into the nukva, because he used the word nukva. Ki iger binyan the nukva hu mekoich aras Abba, is a result of a secondary light, or the glow or radiance that comes from Abba. So now we're talking, when he says the nukva, I'm assuming that he means Malchus. So that here you have her real maturity comes as a result of, I'm just saying, this is my own thought about just where did Malchus from Abba come from here? They're coming through Siranpin. And that's really what brings her the chesadim that she needs in order to be sweeten her gevuros. That's what I would think. So then when he's gone, she's gone. She's dark. And when that happens, then the dinim that are in Zer Anpin go into the nukva. Hard to hear that. It's a little bit hard to hear the dinim that were in Abba. So I'm assuming that maybe I'm wrong. So I'm assuming that we're talking about after the Nesira. Maybe we're not. But at any rate, this causes a darkness. Va'al derek zecher rei gan b'chadras melech. He said, what does he say? Hamuv of the ale shabir kam de ischashka nukva. Because the mochim, which are ultimately going into Zer Anpin, clothed in the nai of Abba, and no longer are available to shine into the nukva. In other words, they shine into Zer Anpin, and then they shine into the nukva. Is that what we're talking about? That's what I believe. I don't know. Let's go on a little bit more. Try to get more. There's little bits and pieces here. Ray Beer Be'or Yakar. So now how about the Or Yakar? Shabir Khan, you see the Vidarko, he explains over here. He says, Beperish Hasheni, according to the second explanation, the Abba Mistalek his Yached im Ima. That's an easier way to see this, because it's more pieces. Before he had Abba being mashpia to the Nukva, which could only go through Ima and then into Zer Anpin. That's the way I understand it, unless you're talking about Purim, in which case Abba actually enters into the Nukva and overflows her. Kadesh tuchel loholid lahamshech because zer v'nukva, so that she should be able to give birth to zer unpin lamata. So he says what? He says that Abba has to leave her when she's during the time when she's giving birth. So he explains it more like this. So why? That's a good question. He says that we always saying that Abba and Ima are, like he's inside of her, and they're all always together. They're all lovers, and they never part. But over here, he says that in fact it does, because Abba has to leave. Why? Because this is the time where the Zohar and Nukah can be born out. As there Benuk Lamata of the Zera Bebera Bekan Oda explains it further. Kimitzad Siluk Ha'aras Hayichud Abba Min Ima. That Ha'ara of Abba that leaves Ima. This is the concept that we're talking about of the darkening of the nukva, that the world becomes dark for the female. And also it comes from the side, the position of the birth and the hamshachas oros, and the pouring out of the lights of oros zer v'nuk, of zer and nukva. This is the concept of the light that's coming from Ima. This is what it says. When we're talking about the Chochma leaving, so it's the same thing as Abba leaving. It causes the nukva to go dark, which is Bina. Mibechinas nekeva. Now this is very hard. He said she becomes dark. What? From her female aspect. Shehi habechina debina amisyachedes im hachachma. Now this has to be read again. I think he says idin siluch hachachma. So chachma leaves. So then Amar is chashka nukva. That's where we say the nukva, because the male leaves, and he's tying this on to birth. That's Bina, and he leaves the nukva, which is Bina, mibechinas nekeva, shehi habechina de Bina. This is actually Bina's female. She's a receptacle. Amisyachedes im chachma, which was in yichud with chachma. This nehira's ima, but Yehira now is glowing. Shehi habechina de Bina, and the asis aim mitzad mata lahamshek hachavayos the zer anben v'nukva. So that's what he says. So he says again, translating. He says that Ima, Isnehiras Ima, I think it means the shining of Ima. Shihaba Bechina de Bina, that is the aspect of Bina Na'asas aim. That's, in other words, the motherly aspect is now shining of Bina. Mitzad Mata, shining downwards. Laham Shech Achabayas, and why is she shining down? So he says, in order to pour out or stream down the Chavavayos of Zer V'nuk. Now, what he means by the Chavayos of Zer V'nuk, I'm not sure, unless he means Ma'u Ben. So there's obviously more to that than we have right here. Okay, we have one more minute. You want to stop here? So I'll try it. Ray the beer yak or yak. Okay, we stopped. Okay, that's it for today. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is your Tikkun Elevator Kolel. That has been the Sifra Tzniut.